Hello, everyone. My name is Timmy Gobbles, and today I'm doing a user request. So the idea is to sort of emulate the light cycle game from Tron. So they're riding these motorcycles that create a wall of light behind them, with the goal to make your opponents crash before you crash, or something of that sort. Okay, so let's jump into it. And, I still haven't really dipped my toes into the 3D yet, so it's still going to be a 2D game. And, the art's going to be jank, because kind of jank at art, kind of how it is. And so to start this out, I'm going to make like a background grid for the game. And I'll tile that on the background. Okay, there we go. Now that we got that nice kind of computer looking tiley grid thing. All right, now I'm just going to use the Godot logo for the player for now, because I haven't decided what I want it to look like yet. Just to get kind of a prototype working for what the character is going to look like. And it needs a speed that we can choose later on. And I'm thinking I'll give the player a direction, and the input is going to change that direction. And so at the start of the game, your direction's going to be 0, 0. You're not going anywhere. Say you're going to the right. If you press right, it's not going to do anything. But if you press up or down, it'll move the characters. It'll change the direction, pointing straight up or straight down. That way, like if you're going forward and you hit back, then it's not going to turn you 180 degrees and you crash into your own light thing. All right, so then depending on the direction that the player's going, I need to change what the sprite looks like. So that's what that handle player sprite is. It just sees where you're going and decides what the sprite needs to, whether you need to flip it or rotate it. All right, now I just kind of make a little shade to use for the walls that the motorcycle makes. So I think the wall is going to be a raycast and a sprite, and that's all I wanted to have at the moment. And later on, I'm going to need to make some changes to that, because I'll need to choose. I'll need something to detect later on when I start adding AI. Not really. I don't even want to call it AI. It's too basic. But okay, what are we doing here? We got so in my main scene, the world scene, I guess I'm calling it, I need to have 2 packed scenes. I need my player and I need that light trail scene so that I can spawn it. As the player moves around, I'll need to spawn new light trails to follow them. And so I'm kind of trying to come up with so here I need the light trails to scale with the distance between the player. So when I spawn a light trail, it'll be really short, but I want it to follow the back of the bike. So we're kind of figuring that out. There we go. It's growing, but it's I want a new one, right? I want a new one when the player turns. So we need to make a signal for when the player turns, and then the world scene needs to listen to that signal. And so now, I need to make a decision whether or not that signal is going to emit any information. And I do end up putting an angle in there. And the point of that angle is that it's going to tell world what the rotation of the new light wall needs to be. Okay, so now we're putting in some logic for when we spawn a new light trail. Hey, look at that. There we go. It's already kind of working. There's something wrong with it. It's not looking quite right. Okay, perfect. All right, now the light trails are following the player. That's great. What are we doing here? Okay, so next is collision. So like if the bike's moving and it's spawning a light trail at the same time, how do I keep my player from detecting that it's hit the light trail that's like it's spawning in that specific point in time? So what I do is I move the collision box forward a little bit and I make it a little smaller. I want to give the player a little more freedom. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm trying to figure out how these ray casts are working. That's always fun. Always fun to learn something new on this. Gonna tighten that up a little bit. Oh yeah, you know what? In the thing that manages my sprite, I end up putting in logic to move that hitbox around. And so what I should have done is had a root node on my player that, you know, when the character's rotating and stuff, when the bike is turning, I would just rotate that root node and that would do all this stuff. That would move the hitbox and that would move, you know, the tail position. That I have that particle system spawning out of. So in the movie, right, as the bikes are moving and the light walls coming out, it starts out really like bright and then it kind of shifts into the color of what the wall's going to look like. And so that's why I have that particle thing there. Eventually I'm going to tidy it up a bit. Anyways, but if I had like just a node 2D on player as the root node and everything as a child of it, then when I rotate that node, it would rotate everything below it. And so that's what I should have done. But you know, lessons learned and all that. What's going on here? Oh, okay. So I've decided that, you know, there's going to be more than one player on the screen. So I'm going to make an array for each of the players, and I'll have an array that holds all the light walls too, or a reference to them. And I'm going to have nodes in the world scene that hold these, hold the light walls and hold the players, all that stuff. So that way, it's going to keep track of what's on the field, pretty much. And there's also going to be something that holds reference to the light walls that are still scaling as the players move. Because so if two people are playing at the same time, then you have two light walls that need to scale each frame that those players move forward. And if a player turns, then you need a new reference, because whenever you turn, you make a new light wall. So that new light wall needs to replace the old reference in there, so that world knows to scale that new light wall and not the old one, because the old one's just going to stay the same size. Okay, so we're kind of figuring that out. All right, there we go. Look at that. It's following the player. And all right, now we got two players, and I'm moving them around with my two hands. I got two hands, two players, perfect amount. I could have tested it with three. Then I got to play with my toes, and it's kind of gross. Okay, and when a player crashes, you visually want to be able to tell. So we're going to set up a particle system to represent the player's bike exploding, or the player exploding, I don't know. And, you know, we'll want a method to call when it explodes. So this project, it was just jury rig everything. And I think going forward, I'm going to put a little more thought in how I want to structure the systems, because I think I spent 10 hours on this project, and most of it was just trying to get really what seemed like really simple things to work. And I'm not really happy with the result. So if I had some more foresight, a lot of the changes I end up making could have been avoided, or I could have known beforehand that I would need to do these things, you know. I'm not sure if there's a way to make the game preset. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, so when I want all the light walls to explode too when the game's over, or a match, I suppose. I guess in the movie, right, it's like a 3-on-3, and whenever one of the players dies, then it's only their walls that blow up, and that would have been cool to do. But that's not how I did it. I just make the round end when someone crashes. There'd probably be a better way to do that. So I could probably loop through all the light walls and look at the player. They all have like a player ID on them, and I could probably have just the ones explode of the player that exploded if I wanted to fix it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll tidy this game up when I'm a little more seasoned. But okay, so now the game ends when there's a crash, but we don't want the game to just be. I don't want this to be the end. We gotta start the game over. So now I'm running into an issue where I didn't have the foresight of what was going to happen when you started a game, and there's a lot of things that have changed through playing, like the player's rotation and direction and all that stuff. And now I need a way to kind of reset the player when in the field. So the positions need to be reset, and I need to get all the walls and stuff. All that stuff needs to fix it. And then so I want to have a couple modes for the game. I want to have like a single player, a player versus player, and a player versus comm. And then maybe something else. Maybe I'll come up with like a player versus 2 comms or something, or maybe like a you choose. Maybe it could be like 2v2, 2 comms versus 2 people. Anyway, so as it stands, I just have the 2 player versus player and player versus comm set up. Well, not here yet, but eventually we get there. So in a player versus player, I got to spawn 2 players. In just a single player, I only need to spawn 1 player. In a player versus comm, I'm gonna make a shot. Oh yeah, we got some issue where the things just instantly crash. Okay, so I was trying to make the score at some point, I think. Oh, another thing? I need light. I'm just gonna make light walls off the screen so that if you touch the edge of the screen, you explode. And I ended up accidentally moving the background, and I had to fix that. You got 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, 1 for each side. And those don't go away. I don't want those despawning. So I have them in their own node tree called boundary. So I think one of the ideas I had was to have like a score screen that would kind of keep track of how each of your losses went. Like how many times you hit the boundary, how many times you hit your own walls, how many times you hit the enemy walls. Maybe how many times there were head-on collisions. I didn't do head-on collisions. Oh, it's time to make a bike. So, what's that going to look like? You got 2 wheels and a chassis, I guess. And that was it. This is me trying to make something in Inkscape for the first time in like 5 or 10 years. Okay, so like a long time ago, I convinced my friend, I'd found out that Hearthstone was made in Unity, maybe one of the early builds or something. I don't know if it's still made in Unity now. But I was like, dang, we could just make Hearthstone in Unity. And so I convinced him. We spent like a week he was trying to figure out like Inkscape and art stuff because he's really good at drawing and I'm just not. I just don't have the artistic. I might have some artistic eye, but it's not that great. Like this is good enough, right? Or that broom I drew in the last video is fine. But it's just not great, And Anyways, so we spent like a couple weeks I was trying to figure out Unity, and I eventually gave up on it, and he was trying to figure out how to do art stuff, and then I think our lives caught up and we had to keep moving on there, you know. Here I am at it again, but with Godot for some reason. I also tried to do some stuff in Unreal, and the same thing happened. I just kind of petered out. The thing about Unreal Engine, I was doing Unreal 5, and it's so heavy. It's just like with Godot, I felt like it was way simpler to export a game. Whereas with Unreal 5, it's like error after error after error. You need the Windows SDK 7.0413. So I'd get that and be like, oh, you didn't check the box, Timmy Gobbles. Error, fatal error, you can't make. So eventually I got one game going on it, and it was like a little rolly ball putt-putt game. And so every now and then my son asked to play that on my phone. And I had to sideload it because it's too big to fit on the App Store. Because Unreal is a very, very big engine. I don't even know why they have a mobile setting. There's probably, and I know, oh gosh, okay, here we go. The last couple videos, I didn't know you could just do UI stuff. I thought you had to do every little piece by itself. And then I watched a couple tutorials, and it's like way easier to set these things up than I thought it would be. And the trick is it's like a bunch of freaking layers. You have your vertical and your horizontal boxes, and then you do a bunch of I haven't done it yet because I'm still playing with this weird brown one. And I also found a font. Doesn't that font look pretty good for like a little sci-fi game? I think it's called Betatron, which kind of matches the content of the video. All right, so the trick was panels. Panels inside of vertical or horizontal boxes is a good way to like segment up your screen. There we go. Look at that. Let's get this other one out of here. We call it main menu. So you start with a canvas layer and you put a control in it. Now the reason why you put the control in, if you set the theme for that parent control, it's gonna all the other kids are gonna inherit that theme, because otherwise you got to set the however many nodes you're gonna set the theme for, and it's just a little easier to have one more layer. Okay, so you can put these panels in, and then you can tell one of the panels, hey, you're just gonna take up more space, and that's a good way to kind of segment up the stuff. So here I'm trying to set up like a bunch of buttons or something. So we need a title at the top, and then a bunch of buttons. And it's nice to have the title in its own panel, because then, I can make that look bigger. Now it won't look out of place next to the buttons. And here I'm going to have my little game score HUD. And in the code, I can just have it hide this when I don't need it, which is almost always the only time I have this show. Because if I was smart, right, I would have set some screen space aside for the HUD. It'd be really annoying to have your car underneath like some text. So I just have to hide it most of the time. Okay, and so if you look at a bunch of these nodes have a % sign next to them. Now what that means is you can reference it by name in the script. So here I've got menu button 0 label dot text. So that's just going to look at, instead of having to have like $sign control dot game select menu dot panel 3 dot vbox container dot panel 2 dot hbox container dot menu button 0 label, we can just have % menu button 0 label. And so then if I end up changing how those nodes are organized, it's not going to mess up my code, because my code can always reference % menu button 0 label. That's a cool little tidbit. And all you got to do that is you just right click the node and you say, it's like reference by name or something like that. I don't know. Okay, so now wait, yeah, we gotta have some functions like show the game select menu and show the game HUD. So when you show the game HUD, you gotta hide the select menu because I don't want to see that. I don't need that menu there anymore. And when you show the game select menu, I gotta get rid of the HUD. The HUD is gonna be drawn on top of the game select menu. So I'll need to hide it when and by hide I just mean set the visibility to 0. Here we go. Just some buttons. What else am I gonna do? Oh, you know, we gotta make some functions that do something when I hit the button. So I think I make some custom signals, and then world is gonna listen to those signals and do the thing. You can probably have world listen to the buttons directly, but I thought that it would be nice to have some little interim logic to do something before world does it. Like reset the reset the scores or stuff like that. All right, and so I'll need to change the text of the labels on the HUD. So I have some functions for that, like the round number and a message and the scores. Now, I was having the scores be next to the player names, but there's all this white space in the middle next to the message. So I end up using that space to just have like a label that has the scores on it. And it ends up looking a little better. All right, so now I gotta connect up those signals. And I end up putting some timers in there too, so that the rounds don't start immediately. I want the players to be able to see the score screen for a little bit before it moves on to the round. And I want a couple seconds. Yeah, so I want a couple seconds where, what was it? Dang. I want a couple seconds where how much more of this? I might have to cut some out. Ink. All right, cool. So there we go. So just kind of testing out, making sure that logic works. All right, and then when's the match over, right? As always threw me off in tennis. You got the game set match thing. So I'm going by that. So or I guess I was calling them rounds. So you do best of however many rounds, and then that decides who wins the match. Right. So if one player has a greater score than the other, and the total number of score is greater than or equal to a certain number, then the game is over. Because that would imply that someone's won. All right, so it's time to put in those score labels. Because the score was too small at the top. There's too much wasted space there. And the players, a lot of the text I just needed to make bigger too, was part of it. Maybe, and I was playing with the themes for a little too long here, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to discover this new stuff and screw around for it for a bit, you know? Like you can change the button color when you mouse over it, or the button color when you click it, and the button color when you disable it. I ended to disable some buttons, and I think I ended up doing an export so I can kind of test it and make sure it works on HTML5. All right, there we go. See, does that look better with the big numbers? I mean, the text in the middle is wrong, but... Oh, so the Ipsum Dollar whatever bijig stuff is like an old old-timey classic way to test text to see if it looks right. It's just gibberish or something, but so in true tradition, I keep using it, but I only remember like the first couple words of it. Some lorem dolor something. Maybe it's lorem ipsum. I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Set some mood music here. Let's see. Okay, so it's time to do a computer, right? And so I learned some things from this too, from making a child. The first thing I learned is, from now on, if I ever think I'll need a child of something, I'm gonna make a physics process function, and then in physics process, I'm gonna call that function, and then that'll do it. And that way, when I make a child, I can just have parent physics process function and then do the child's physics process function. And I won't have to redo a bunch of code, which was really stupid. But I didn't know that, so I had a little bit of learning there too. Because when I put physics process in NPC, it's going to override that whole function. It's not going to do anything of what the parent does in there, which is funny. I thought it was funny. It's not like, it's funny that I got so hung up on it, you know? Okay, so what I want to do in the NPC is I want to have a raycast in the front. And when that raycast sees a light wall, I want the computer to turn itself. And I end up putting some raycasts shooting off to the sides too. So like, suppose there's a wall on the left and a wall in the front, then obviously you want to turn to the right. And if there's a wall in the front and a wall on the right, then you want to turn to the left. So I end up putting some of that in there too. But I start getting into some funky issues. The first issue is that when that raycast hits a wall, the bike just explodes. And I never really figured out why. I thought that the raycast on the light walls was hitting the raycast from the bike, but it doesn't make any sense because they're on different masks. And I tried asking in the Discord and I didn't really get a response, which makes me think it's some other issue. Maybe what the issue is the bike's turning twice and it's hitting its own wall. Or maybe I didn't have the logic out right yet and it was turning and the wall was scaling funny and it hit the bike. So that was great. And I had another issue, and that was in the player logic, I have some checks to see whether the direction equals something. Now, direction is a vector2 variable, and vector2 is basically like an array of two floats. And floats can do equals. You can do an equals check on them, but if you do any math to a float, it's probably not going to equal like a round number. So the solution to this was either to go back and make direction a vector 2i, which is two integers instead of two floats, or I end up rounding it after doing math on it. So when the CPU turns, because it's not using buttons, so I was having to have it use math when it turns, I was using a rotate function. And so you can't rotate vector 2i because I don't know why you can't. So either I'd have to do that with logic, or what I found was you can round it. When you round it, it goes to an integer value like 1.0, 2.0, that sort of thing. And then that will pass the check, is direction equal to 1.0, comma 2.0, you know? So that was fun. It's a lot of trying to figure that one out, because the bike would turn and it'd start moving in a different direction, but World wasn't making a new light wall. It was really frustrating. So here we go. There's Round. That's the story behind Round. None of this game is round except for the wheels, but you know. All right, what do we got going on here? There's a bike. Oh yeah, you know, let's fix the particles on this. There's a little finagling with there, but something really cool I found. First, I want the scaling I want it to start small and then get big. That's what it looks like in the movie. That's what it's all about. Now see this gradient? So what I found is, oh no, lost where it was. Okay, they're back to here. With this gradient, I can actually set the end color of that gradient so it can go white to the final color, and you can do that in the code. So I have somewhere in the code it changes the player's colors based on I have like an array of colors in World, and so when you spawn a new player, based on the player index, it picks one of those colors. So then here, there we go. So it's picking that color. And now I need to be able to rotate it, which I think I had to turn local chords on or something. I tried to do something where it wouldn't emit or something, but that ended up not working. So I just kind of gave up on it. Okay, so now they're both using the colors on the color walls or something. I might have to slow that down a bit in the video. I don't know. Make that hitbox a little smaller. And so then I spent a lot of time trying to get the right size for the ray in front of the computer. Because if that ray is really big, then it's going to turn really early. And I could have done some math to tell it when to turn, but it, I don't know, lazy. Man, Thanksgiving week is always so busy. The thing is, I think I've been done with this footage for like 5 or 6 days, but I've just been so busy with getting ready and hanging out with my kids and trying to find new job prospects and stuff that I haven't finished it until now. And I got this weekend. I got another Thanksgiving thing with friends, so I'm making a turkey. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, why did I turn the background off? It's kind of funny. Might even look better with the background like that. It's kind of hard to see. Kind of hard to see with the black background. I guess the solution to that is to put a white background behind it and then turn down the alpha for the black one. But, you know, I thought these were a little more visible, but maybe not. They looked okay. All right, and then we're going to put in those checks to see if the side rays are hitting. All right, and I want a title screen. So for my title screen, or I guess my start screen, I'm gonna slap this gradient on it. It has this little line down the center, and that's just because of the 2 panels. They kind of just slap a line in there. Anyways, got that. We're gonna call it light writer, just vaguely reminiscent enough of light cycles. And we've got to tell it when to turn on, right? And when to go away. And I think I put some like pseudo text on the bottom to tell you to hit the button. Pseudo HTML with the open caret, some text, and then slash and close caret. I don't know any HTML5, so don't tell me it's wrong. I'm saying pseudo for a reason. I have no idea. Yeah, press a key to start. Just if that's wrong, pretend it's right for something else. I don't know. All right, and then we'll put the big old motorcycle in the back. Look at that. Look at that title screen. Isn't it beautiful? And we should make a light wall coming off behind it. And yeah, it looks okay. Doesn't that look okay? I mean, I got to get the pixels right on that one thing, but that's not bad. I'd say it's pretty good. And I should show off the game, I guess. There we go. It's Light Rider. Please don't sue me, whoever owns Tron. Okay, so we'll test out the 2-player. Everything sort of works. All right, so next week. Is it next week? Yeah, I guess it would be next week. All right, so my plan is going to make a little rogue like. Oh, that's kind of weird. Why'd that do that? Oh, that's working. Well, that must be a bug. Well, you never come out quite the way you want them sometimes. Anyways, that should get the NPC. So the next project is going to be a little roguelike, just to kind of get the feel for that kind of style of game. I feel like that would be a good project to do. And, after I've made a little content for that, I'm going to try to do, not sure what I'm going to do. We'll see how that goes, see how that goes. And I'll take my chances from there. So we'll see if I can cut this guy off. Oh no. Well, I've made a mistake. I've made a terrible mistake. Oh, he's made a mistake too. Oh, worked out. All right, cool. All right, that is this game. And, I hope you guys look forward to the next game. This week, not as great quality as the last 2 weeks, but, I'm hoping I can really put something out next time that is kind of better than this. And we'll see how that goes. And I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving week. And everything, I'll see you all next time, you know what I'm saying?